I hope this isn't like an ominous thing and then I die in like a month. And you're like, oh man, thank God I did those the field recordings.
That's an odd thing to say. But if you do die in a month, I'll be glad. I mean, I will be saying that.
That's valid.
So.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay. Well, we're rolling.
Okay.
Welcome to my podcast. You're the first, I don't know what I was saying there.
Guest over the age of 50.
There are really no expectations that I set with these podcasts. I just like having filmed conversations because they're really entertaining to talk about, and also I think it's such a cool vessel to have an intentional conversation with somebody where you can kind of talk about whatever, but you also have like an intention behind it. Like, it's like with my ADHD, I find it very hard to focus, obviously. And so like I'm very distracted in conversations a lot of the time. And so I've found that being mic'd up and on camera kind of places me in the moment, so I'm more invested in conversations. So the main, I feel like one of the abnormal vessel of important questions I've had for you as of lately, I've sent to you over Instagram. Like, as I'm sure you've seen, our Instagram DMs are like so random and so heavy.
Yeah.
Like, I sent you that video of that mother seeing her child. That video brought me to tears.
Same.
I figured it would with you. That was beautiful. But also, I think I sent you one that was like 6 questions to ask your mother before she dies or something like that.
Yeah.
Which I thought was cool. And then I've also been watching these videos as of lately that are just this 54-year-old man talking to his camera. I had talked to you about this.
Yeah.
In the car.
With
advice. And I just wanted to kind of ask you questions that, like the main questions that I either am dealing with right now or am worried that I'm going to have to deal with in the future.
Okay.
But that, like, I don't know. I have to like think about it a little bit.
Okay.
So we don't have to get into that just yet.
And I love those questions you sent me over Insta. They are a lot like the Storyworth questions that you guys have been sending me since, I think, May, that I haven't answered any of them. And I know, and I want to, but I'm also like, I feel like some of them require a deep dive that I'm not always down to take. So I know that's a part of the procrastination, but I love them, and I want you to have the answers that you want, all 4 of you, before I go. Like, I don't want to take that stuff with me, because that's part of my legacy then, like this is what my heart was made of, this is so, but it's just hard. Like, I don't know, I get it's much easier to focus on you guys and how you're doing and what you need. But then I also know I'm a little bit of a martyr or a hypocrite, because then I'm like, you guys don't even ask how I am. You don't even check in, so.
Yeah. Because I like, sometimes like almost like flexing how cool my relationship with you is and how cool you are. And like, I love seeing people's faces when they hear things like that, or they hear, that you carry dildos, or like whatever it is. Like when they hear that that's what a relationship between a mother and a son can be, there's like this look of shock, and it's like sometimes filled with a lot of judgment, but then it's like, Dex is around or someone's around that's like affirms that it's like not weird, it's like a cool healthy thing. And so then they kind of like get curious, and it's just fun to watch. And especially as like that, you haven't been here in 6 months, so there's a lot of new people in my life who don't know you or don't know about what you have or what we have. And it's just cool. But obviously we kind of had a breakdown this summer as you kind of realized that our relationships have all been more one way in your eyes, and that's been difficult. And I'm like, it just makes me think about the fact that like you had 20 years of it being mostly a one-sided relationship for all of us, because we're so young and we're you know, you can't really expect us to be able to do that for a while. I know maybe some people say, oh, when you move out, you should be ready to do that. I feel like it takes a lot of emotional development, and that could happen anywhere between like 18 and 23. You know, we've seen Olivia kind of develop a little bit slower than perhaps someone like me, but I also had like Olivia charged through first and had a lot more trauma, and I have like more of an established running and purpose, so it's like, but you think most people, because you talk to a lot of young people, do you think most people hit their stride with emotional development like by the time like they're like 23? Or do you think I'm just around people that are doing that, and so I think it's that, and there's like a lot of like 28-year-olds and 30-year-olds that are still like
trying to find their way?
I mean, obviously I'm not finding my way, and this is sort of off the topic of like the one-sided relationship, which I wanted to specifically ask you about that, because I can't imagine, especially in a marriage where you have 4 relationships with your kids that are one way, how isolating that must sometimes feel, and how you could totally lose your sense of self and your sense of worth and your passions, because it's like there's no one looking at you and being like, who are you today? How have you changed this week? Because you're just, I mean, like,
who are you separate from these other 4 or 5 people? That's the thing. I think disappeared the most and disappears for a lot of people in marriage and in parenthood.
Makes me think of like like I can't imagine what they were like before, but certainly they've lost it since.
I think super devoted, really. I think there was so much trauma in her life with her mom that she the pendulum swung completely the opposite direction, where she wanted to do everything because nothing was done for her, which is also like crippling, right? But
clearly,
the one-sided thing is hard. It is definitely, and society doesn't really hold space for that, because we think like that's what motherhood is, but there is not a lot of reciprocity in the relationship for like 18 to 20 years, if not longer.
Reciprocity is reciprocated energy.
Like I give to you, you give to me. And like, of course, the milestones of your life, the smiles, the crawling, the walking, your first words, like those are amazing. But for the amount of output in raising a human, those don't quite hit enough to be like, this feels really even, you know? And it's hard to be in any relationship for 20 years and not really have it be a loop where you get a lot back. And then when you're in a partnership that feels that way too, whether it was or not, it doesn't matter. It didn't feel that way. So then you're just in output mode, and you're only valued for the roles you play, not the person you are. Right? So I'm valued because I'm a mother and I'm raising 4 kids, and I'm home. And good for me not working outside the home, a lot of women would say. Like,
okay, but I have a question. What is that perspective from? Because certainly from like me to you personally, interpersonally, I see you and appreciate you not for the role, but for the person you are. Now, you don't think that was the case when I was like a 6-year-old boy? You think like like what?
No, I don't, because I think it's really as it is, it's first it's survival. You know, you cry because your diaper's wet, or you're exhausted, or you're hungry. Like, you are communicating needs from the very minute you hit the oxygen of this earth. And you cry, and then you get language, and then you use language with crying, and then you transition into just language with an occasional cry. Right? But it's always about getting your needs met. So at 6, you appreciated that as your caretaker, I would make sure there was food for you to eat, toys for you to play with, clean clothes, baths, things like that. But like, it was about, these are my needs, meet them. You know, I don't think you had the emotional capacity or maturity to be like, I really want to reciprocate in how I view you as a woman, and not just as a mom, you know, like that I think just can't come until later.
Does it ever like, are there ever exceptions to that where like a little energetic like sneaks out of a young child in a really like intimate moment or something, or like a moment where I like look at you and I'm like Mom, what did you want to do when you were a kid? Or like just do questions like that sometimes come out where it's like you can like kind of look at your kid and be like, oh,
there's
like,
no
what
question
you're thinking or something.
Yes. And like, yes. And I think you see some of those moments like now, and it makes you wonder how organic they are, but like on TikTok, or people like post them little like where a kid says something that feels so mature beyond its years, their years, right? And you just go, oh, there's that amazing, I feel like you and I might have traded it. It's an Asian woman and the little boy's in a crib and he's talking about his feelings and he can't be more than like 2.
Yep.
And he is articulating it better than most adults would.
What I find so cool about that video is that obviously their brains are so underdeveloped and they don't get anything.
Right.
But they understand like the basic, simple concept and structure of the whole ideology.
Yep.
And often the most complex things, like these really deep, complex things, are simple in like the systemic way that they function. And so if you can just get like, oh, I'm sad, like I'm feeling angry, and that's connected to sadness. Like if you can just get that simple concept, you kind of seems like you understand everything that lies beneath it.
Yeah.
Even if your brain is so underdeveloped and you're just like a little kid saying whatever shit comes to your mind.
There were things that definitely appeared to click for him that were just remarkable for that capacity of development in life. I mean, he really was able to draw some parallels, which was amazing. And the way she received them, that whole thing was so profound. And so the answer is for sure, there's definitely moments that I can remember where you specifically would say something, and usually it's with like such a sweet earnestness of like, just like, Mommy, what color ice cream do you want to have? Something like that. That's within the scope of what you can handle.
Yep, it's in the context.
Not like, is your life fulfilling and meaningful, right? Yeah, but like, wait, I'll tell you second. You tell me first what kind of ice cream you want. Stuff like that. There were definitely moments that happened that just, and it makes you pause. It made me pause. And it just like your heart goes, oh my God, this is so fucking awesome, you know?
Yeah.
So, yes, the answer is yes. I can say for sure there were moments. And still sometimes you'll do or say something that like makes my breath catch. And then like sometimes I'll even cry, but I'll just be so like, oh my God, thank you for asking that, you know, or for saying, like a week or so ago, and you called and I immediately started like running through like, how are you, what's going on, how's Lila, did you pay your ticket, what's the deal with your tuition bill, like into the things. And you were like, okay, I can get you, I think you literally said I can get to all that, but I just was calling, actually I wanted to see how you were doing, like what's going on with you. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like it just does, I'm like, wait, what, you know? Anyway,
it's cool as I finally feel like I'm actualizing and becoming this version of myself that finally has some clarity and peace and confidence, like all of those necessary things.
Yeah.
It's amazing looking at you, because you are obviously one of, if not the most significant role in my life, because you're my mother. You are literally me. It's amazing, like finally getting beyond that point of, I'm like, oh, what ice cream do you like, Mom? And being like, are you spiritually fulfilled? Like the question that you said before, like finally really looking at you and seeing who you are, and like finally getting to understand how actually fascinating and incredible of a human being you are. Aww. Not from just like being your son, but as being like another cool human being, seeing another cool human being, and seeing someone who's following their dreams and, you know, chasing what they want to do and doing it really well and learning everything they can, and then changing so many lives and being so emotionally intelligent and understanding the human condition and perception so well, but also having this contrast of like a really unsuccessful relationship history.
Yeah.
And also like really complicated childhood you know, like a very complicated past that contrasts where you are now, because obviously that's how you got to where you are now. Through all that struggle, through all that information and suffering, you've developed so much and learned so much about the human experience and working through everything that comes with it, that you can now be so helpful to so many people. And it's such an incredible asset. It's like the most important thing, because it addresses the ultimate questions in everyone's lives. And so that is just fascinating. It's like, oh my God, that's my mom. That person is the wisest, you know, you are the Dry Creek Wrangler School guy. And so it's so valuable that I am able to have these conversations with you. But also I'm like, I left right when it happened. Like, if I could have had 20 years living with you with this appreciation, it would be so magnificent.
That would have been awesome.
But we don't get that, which is fucked.
No.
But now we do get it.
And then by the time you could have that, neither party wants it anymore.
Right, exactly.
Like, you've kind of overstayed your welcome, so I'm like, no, go do you.
Because by then you're also like, I'm a human now.
Right.
Like, living with you causes problems, like living with causes problems, and staying with, you know, spending more than some amount of time with you, I get annoyed. Like, it's like, we have our normal human boundaries now, so it's harder to live with each other. I mean, it was hard to live with each other, I'm sure, in the beginning, but we just had to make it work. And so that's also like, perhaps we stunted both of our growth a little bit in that time to be able to live with each other.
Sure.
It's funny looking at it as a two-way relationship too. It's like you having to live with your kids. Like, of course that is what happens when having a kid, but that's a hard thing. But and it's hard as a kid living with your parent too, to some extent.
Absolutely. You don't know anything else, and you have needs that they consistently meet, but you don't even appreciate them. So they're just a given. They're an expectation.
Yeah.
And then you just resent the way that they cramp your style, right? The boundaries they try to hold for you. You're like, fuck that. But you're never like, stop supporting me financially. Stop giving me rides every day, or stop paying for all my activities. Stop preparing my meals. Like, but it's just this like, oh, you just don't understand kind of like. God.
That's also like kind of a specific to us scenario, I think, because a lot of parents cut their kids off at 18 when they go to college. They say get a job. Yeah. And perhaps a lot of parents keep it going without really questioning it at all, or like not really having any problem with it. Yeah. And so we kind of lie in the middle, which I think most, you know, suburban white families probably fall in that. Right. It's like those middle years, which certainly brings conflict to relationships. I mean, that's like a pretty token story, is like the kid in college who's not really doing anything, they won't get a job, and the parent has to like do hard love or whatever. Yeah, yeah. So it's like a unique thing that we're kind of navigating, which is interesting.
But I want that for you, obviously, and I do think that as much as you make a really valid point, which again never gets talked about, that it's hard to live with any human day in and day out. Yeah. But with your children, you're forced to, and them with you to a certain time, they're forced to. Right. And you all have to make it work, but it doesn't always work. That is true. And I used to say after the divorce,
I mean, some families, like, the kids and the adults need more space. Like, that's just like a reality, that you may have a kid that like can't do that.
Yep. That's definitely
and like,
true.
As a parent, maybe you're out of control of that. You know?
Yeah, I think so. But what I was going to say is, I used to say after the divorce, like, I was made to be like a single mom, meaning I loved having the full say over all the decisions, the discipline, all that. Yeah. Not having to especially when you have styles that aren't aligned. But I just like that, because the flip side of not being married and doing that was I also got to have all the connection and all the fun stuff. Right? Whereas the dynamic that happens in most families is one parent is the hammer and one is the fun. And in our family, I was the hammer and your dad was the fun, until I would sort of push him to be like, come on. Yeah. And that would have stayed that way if we'd stayed married, I think. And it's like, so by being the single mom, I got to do the discipline and decisions my way. I got to do the fun also, and I got to have time off. Yep. I got to have a break, you know?
Yeah, that's an interesting thing.
And it was a game changer. I think I was for sure a better mom because of that, because it, like anything, you need a fucking break. And it was just like a couple nights a week I could exhale. And so then you guys came back and I was stoked to see you. And I feel like families that aren't divorced or separated, they never get that opportunity.
Yeah.
And there's something to be said for that. Because it was reciprocal. You guys would come back and be, Mom.
Yeah.
You know?
That's interesting. I wonder if that time that both the parent and the kid get in divorce could like develop the relationship in some way. Like it'd be interesting to study
what
relationships
the effects
between divorced parents and their kids versus like together parents.
Yeah.
I also never thought about the struggle of co-parenting, like a disagreement about parenting.
Brutal.
Especially because that's like how you raise your kids that's a very big value to a parent.
Yes.
Of course. And
yep. It is brutal.
I'm sure there's a lot of
It's brutal
conflict.
Married and divorced. I mean, I think it's probably harder married though, because then you're like sharing space. It gets much more toxic probably with divorce though, because there's separate time where the two parents aren't together, where they're just infusing their kids with their beliefs and values and judgments. And yeah, it is
with a divorce versus like a healthy relationship, because you can also have a non-healthy relationship where they're still together, where that's
100%.
equally if not worse than the divorce.
Yeah, I just mean in the divorce situation, there's a lot more. There's a total opportunity for separateness, whereas in a married couple, even an unhealthy one, where they may be trying to work that narrative with the kids, you're so much more frequently with the other parent, so there's less opportunity to like get in there. So yeah, co-parenting is tough. Cohabitating is tough. I mean, it really is. So
have you enjoyed, I mean, Chris moved out 2 months ago, and you've been traveling for a good amount of it.
Yes.
And you've been busy for a good amount of it.
Yep.
But have you felt any sense of individuality kind of like reestablishing itself in your life or in your self-image?
That's such a good question. Such a great way to phrase it. And the answer is yes. And it is started out like very sad. You know, I definitely was crying more and just being like, oh my God, I'm just alone.
Yeah.
And then crying less and being like, oh my God, I'm just alone. And then like, beautiful. Oh my God, I'm just alone, you know, and like all that meant. And I've taken...
And then there's a little bit of all of that throughout. Like even after that hype, do you still have times where you go back and cry and you're like, oh my God.
Oh, 100%. That's
so then
you're
back
also
on the like roller coaster
it's
of the
a train
experience.
Yeah. Because there's some moments where I just feel so grateful. I started using that bathtub. It's not my bathtub at Creek Road, which is literally the best bathtub ever in a house.
Until a bunch of, or was that one where all that random shit flew out when I got in that one time?
No, that was at Draper Circle, and then that was, or maybe.
That was like a scarring memory, man. Random thought.
I'm so sorry. You won't ever.
I just remember I was sitting in the bath and it was so nice, so we turned it on and just a bunch of black shit started shooting out of the jets,
which
and I
is
just
literally
leapt
just leaves
out of that water. I mean, I just probably shrieked.
Yes, that's true. Maybe it was, but the point is, the bathtub is nothing great, but it's a bathtub, and I'm like, I'm gonna just take a bath. We have all these amazing bath salts and bath scents and oils, and I was like, fuck it. And I did, and I sat and I read my book, and I was like, this is so fun.
Yeah.
And then I just threw a bathrobe on, and then I went across the hall and climbed in bed. And I was like, I couldn't do that if everybody was living here, you know?
It's almost like you're living, like I'm doing that too. I'm realizing that too, and having that individuality. Like I'm not having dinner with everyone. I'm also alone and like doing yoga as well. So that's funny that we're both like,
I know, kind of the same journey.
For the first time. I've been doing it for a few years now, obviously, I guess, but
just rub it in. No, but it's true. It's like, I have wanted to and talked about it, but talking about the thing is not doing the thing.
That's what they say.
So I'm doing the thing, and sometimes it's amazing, and the yoga, and like I have it just set up in the living room, and it's great because it doesn't disturb anyone. Like there's definitely things. I just buy what I want in the portions I want. I can buy food, and I know it's still going to be there in 2 days.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
You know, trying to find those little things that are just cool, and just not having to accommodate anyone else's schedule. I just am, and that's like an
You can
adjustment.
make your calendar and feel completely in control.
Yes.
Feel like everything's there.
And I love my calendar. Thanks, Bean, because that has been such a game changer to help me keep track of my stuff and not just be talking about the list, but executing the list.
Yep.
So,
Of course.
anyway, so yeah, I think that's all been really positive, and it's definitely an arc, and I get here and then I go back and start over, you know.
Yep.
And I think it'll probably always
Yep.
be like that, because I
Oh,
get
for sure.
moments like when I texted the screenshot of the picture of the four of you from this summer with that song "Joy of My Life" by Chris Stapleton, which he's like one of my top 5 favorite artists.
Yep.
Love his lyrics, love that song. So I'm like feeling this rush of emotion last night, just like tears in my eyes, loving
Yep.
you guys and seeing that song playing with that picture on my phone. And I was like, yes. And then I get humble because I send it out and nobody responds. And I'm like, all right, fuck it. I take it back. So
That's funny. That's funny. It's I've noticed that, and we've talked about mushrooms a little bit. I always talk about mushrooms when I have any sort of deep conversation. Those moments of missing, like those moments where the equivalent of you being like, I'm alone.
yeah.
Like I have those a lot too, and I had a lot of those this winter. And normally those come to me when I'm really present, like if I meditate, or because when I clear my mind completely, the biggest things in my brain, the biggest parts of me, which are you, Chris, Julia, Olivia, you know,
Yeah.
they become clear. They take up more of my mind because nothing else is there. So
Okay.
that's when I like think about it. And so then when I really think about it, I think about how much I miss you guys, and I think about the past, and I think about how we only see each other once a year. And I'm like, shit, okay, or like twice a year. And then I'm like, okay, well, 30 years, that's like 60 times. Like I start doing some thinking that's like I talked to you, like just kind of appreciating the finitude of what is going on in this experience, because like anything, like how I moved out right when I was able to fully appreciate it, part of this whole life experience is that by the time you're ready, there's always a curveball that comes in.
Yeah.
And so in these moments where I really think about it and I really miss you guys and I'm really emotional, they're the moments of the greatest depth in my life. They're the moments of the greatest emotion. Because there's a depth that sadness can reach that happiness has never been able to quite reach for me. I mean, I can certainly be really excited and really happy, but when I'm sitting and I'm thinking about, you know, the cruise, there's a feeling in me that arises. It is so much deeper than anything I can feel. And it's so sad. It's so overwhelmingly sad to think that, like, you're gonna die. Chris is gonna die. I'm gonna watch my siblings and I'm gonna watch you die one day in the future, which is coming.
Mm-hmm.
And that thought is so horrifying, and it makes me, when I sit and, like, say when I take mushrooms, I sit and I think about that thought for 4, 5, 6 hours straight. And so then that sends you to a place that is so dark but so beautiful, because it's so real. I mean, it's just real, and it's emotions that I'm gonna feel, and there's gonna be a lot of good ones, but there will come a time when I am sitting in a ditch, an emotional ditch that is deeper than anything I've ever been in before, and I know that day's coming. And that's when I feel like something like a conversation like this, where I come to something like this, then where I can look at a video of you looking into the camera and you can speak to that version of me. When you're gone, when Julia's gone, when all that I'm sitting with is the memories of what once was and how beautiful that was. And I feel like deaths like that, it's almost like death makes you more ready for death. Like I'm not ready to die. I'm ready to fucking rage and drink and run and laugh and scream. But when Chris dies, I'll be closer, you know? I'll be ready to end this beautiful, beautiful human experience that have been gifted. And God, what a beautiful experience it has been. thanks to you. Thanks to the community that you've created in my life and the purpose that you have given me in my life. So thank you for that. I hope there's no way to communicate the appreciation I have for you. And even like this, like the comparison of our hands, how beautiful that is to me, like how you've aged since I've known you. You've gotten older like that. You have an old hand. And that is so, so terrifying to me. But so, so beautiful. And I have a young one, so I got 35 years on you.
Yeah.
And the things that I know that like someone like you would do for this youth, like I just want to live the best way I can, because I have this gift of being young and alive and conscious and so full of passion and life and energy. And
yeah, well, I think that's the best like tribute or ode to gratitude that you can ever embody, is to do that, because it is true that when you get older, you look back and think, fuck, I wish I had done that differently, like appreciated it more, embraced it more, taken the risk, sent the text, whatever.
yeah, said that thing, hugged that person.
Right. Just like
hooked up with that girl. That one maybe not.
Yeah, or that guy, or the guy and the girl.
Or
right?
not hooked up with that girl.
Or not hooked up with that girl. But like and then you obviously you don't have the opportunity to go back, but also things have changed, circumstances have changed, so you maybe don't have like the physical energy to go do the thing you wish you'd done, or the emotional energy to start over. Or you do, right? But the thing you gain above all else is just fucking this beautiful wisdom, like we were talking about in the car. You have life experiences, and so you what you do is create resources to draw upon, so that when experiences happen in life, you can really embrace the fact that this too shall pass, because you've been through other things and they've passed, you know? Yeah. And I think you get all that wisdom, you get all that knowledge, you get all that insight, and then you look back, obviously wishing that you could take it and apply it. Like, I want to give you all this knowledge, wisdom, insight. I want to hand it to you and be like, please use this, because otherwise it feels like it just goes to waste. And someday in the not too distant future, relative to life, you will look back and go, fuck, not only did I have all this wisdom in my own head, because I always knew, but I still made the choices I made, but I knew better, or I knew differently. But I had these resources, i.e. my mom, who was like, here's this amazing care package, please utilize it, right? It just it's gonna expire, and like, use it. And no, it's very rare, I think, that a kid takes that from their parent or grandparent or aunt or uncle and says, I will. Right? They go, but I don't. And then they look in the care package and go, okay, but you said this, and I'm going to go with it. You know, I mean, we all are like, I want to learn it organically. I want to find my own way. Yeah. And that's so valid. But it is such a lost resource, because holy shit, there's so many people walking around with all this incredible wisdom and knowledge that doesn't ever get put to the best possible use. So
I feel like so often it's either fucked by people who give straight up wrong advice because they don't know what the fuck they're talking about and they're giving advice, which is frequent. Or people that give shitty advice and they do know what they're talking about, but they just like give shitty advice for some reason. I guess that one's less common. But I feel like if you can have a wise figure in your life and you can really give them context, like if you can give them a lot of information about a situation, because the more information you have, you know, I could be like, I'm cold, what do I do? And you're like, wear a jacket. But I'm like, I don't have money, I can't buy. Like, you know what I mean? More context changes, complicates, completely changes the situation and the problem.
The briefer the story, usually the more we are superheroing it. Right? I'm not telling you the whole story. I'm just telling you the part that makes me look the best.
Right.
And the more you do get the context, usually
Right.
the more you can root out, like, what's the other side?
Yeah.
So yeah, okay.
As someone who's trying to like give the information to an adult or a wise figure, it can also sometimes be hard to be like, okay, what are the important things? Like, if I give you these 8 pieces of information, maybe those are the only 8 ones, but maybe I'm forgetting this one tiny one that kind of actually complicates it a little bit.
Sure.
So there's like, it's
Or
a whole
you don't
process. It's an
recognize
art.
the other pieces that really are like the puzzle solvers too, like,
Yeah.
because you haven't
Right.
drawn those parallels yet to even
Right.
realize if you knew this,
Yeah.
this would all make sense.
But sometimes those parallels are in the information, and a wiser figure can draw those
sure,
parallels.
they're able to pull
and help
them.
you do it.
Right.
But it's just, it seems like so often, because then it's also like, well, I'm living a different life than you. Like, maybe your life advice applies to your life and what you want,
Sure.
and like how that kind of manipulates. Like, there's a bias in it.
Yep.
But I think what I'm trying to say is, you're probably right when you give me advice. For the most part, you've been alive for an extra 35 years. 9 out of 10 times when you give me advice, it's going to be correct if we are on the same page. If you understand what I'm looking for and I understand what, all that.
I think that's a good qualifier, right? If there's clarity around what is really being shared or asked,
Yeah.
then yes. But just to speak, I want you to jump back, but just to speak to what you were saying, I think it's so true, like in terms of how we give advice, because it's always through the lens of our own experience and our own agenda. We
Yep.
don't always
Of course.
acknowledge
And
that,
those are very
but it's
different
not
things.
just like pulling the history, it's also recognizing
Right.
the agenda.
You got to understand the intention of the person who's giving you
Right.
the information.
And we all
Which means kind of in a way
always-
you have to be doing a service, because they're asking you for help. They're not asking you for authority. They're asking you for help. You know what I mean?
Right,
So
right.
you can't manipulate it to your own standards if they set the intention when they're talking
Right.
about it to you.
Well, you can, but you shouldn't,
You
right?
shouldn't,
Because
right.
the information is then presented to you, and I think that was. So I think that's what happens, and I think the information in terms of the way it's presented to you, like I know a big learning thing for me in these last couple of years with you guys has been not assuming that I know what should happen next, but asking essentially, what is it you need from me, or how can I best support you right now? Like that was a humbling learn for me, because I'm like just barreling along, and then I think it was Teeny was really the first one who said, I don't need you to
Julia was the
fix
first
this,
one.
right? And it was something to do with Coach I, and she ripped me a new one, and I was like, what the fuck?
Do you think you were super defensive when she first did that? Because it was like kind of pushing back against
it
her
was
power
totally
that's been unchecked?
because she had laid it down like, this is the deal. And I think she'd said, what do you think? And then I was telling her what she didn't want to hear.
Yeah.
But the point, what she did that was really important was, I don't always need you to fill in the blank, fix it, problem solve it, hijack it. Like, we know I can do that. I don't need that. Sometimes I just need you to let me vent. And even if you have the answer and it's the best answer or the right answer, that doesn't mean I necessarily want to hear it.
This reminds me of a conversation between Otis and his mom in sex ed. Like, you're just imposing therapy on a person who doesn't
Stop
want it in the
therapizing
moment.
me, he says.
Right.
Yeah, actually
You
screams
gotta,
it at her.
You got to feel the emotion before you want to fix the emotion, almost.
Right. And consent matters, right? And
Yeah.
that was the first real thing that I remember being like, well, for fuck's sake. But she was right. And so obviously the ideal is to not go about it in such an explosive way where it feels like a detonation. But
Of course.
to just be able to say, what is it you need from me? And I have tried to. I'm not sure how successful. I know I don't do it all the time, but I've really tried to say, what is this just like, listen, is this affirm me? Like, do we agree this person's an asshole? And I'm never even going to ask what they did. Like, it's irrelevant. You just need me to be on your side. Like, okay, just tell me what you're looking for so that I can show up in a way that makes you feel heard and affirmed. Right? So
That's a great parenting shift. I mean,
Yeah.
the ability to recognize that, understand your behavior, understand the needs of your child, change
right.
for the better for the both of you is
Right.
a very
'Cause that's
necessary and mature and talented thing to do as an adult
well, thank you.
parent. So
And I agree, and it's imperative because I want that door to be open And I want to make sure that I'm showing up for you guys in a way that feels like what you need. And does it mean if I see a need that you maybe don't see, I'm not going to still say, well, I think you need a fucking calendar, and I'm going to keep coming back to it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I will always do that. I will always do that. But if the rest of the time, mostly, I'm showing up and saying, tell me what you need, hopefully that will be tolerated.
Yeah.
And perhaps even valued.
Yeah. It is. As I get older, I mean, I appreciate it a lot more because it's just helpful. It's helpful stuff. You know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I, you know,
Well,
I'm also bad at like asking sometimes. Not even like, maybe in the past I was bad because I was like, there was like self-worth issues or like things like that. But now I'm just bad at asking because I haven't really, I don't know. I never know when I'm like, okay, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I should ask for advice or help on some situation. I just kind of do my own thing sometimes, which isn't necessarily bad. It's
no,
fun,
I mean, because you got to find your own way.
Yeah.
But if
I also feel like
tweak
I have
your
a lot,
own compass.
I've also learned a lot now, so I feel very, you know, I feel like I'm doing a good job in my own relationships.
You have resources to draw on.
Yeah, like I really.
That's beautiful.
I only need you when I'm like, oh shit, this one's tough.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I think that's awesome, and I love that because that's, I mean, obviously that affirms my ego in as much as like some of the things that I have tried to really consistently teach, but also embody, so that it wasn't just hear my words, it was also see my actions.
Yep.
And that was what I was going to say about what you were talking about earlier. Living our lives and giving advice from that place is almost an inevitability, but there are universal concepts and themes and beliefs that I hold that would not override, but like
supersede.
They would be across the board, right? For everybody and anybody, I would say the same exact thing. It would the untweakables, that these are things that no matter who I'm talking to at what stage in their life about whatever topic, these are my go-tos. And you guys know most of them by heart because you've heard me say them to you and to others so often.
What,
you know?
like just like the concept of like honesty? Is that what like you're kind of referring to? Well,
the concept of it's not enough to just say, I'm sorry. Those are just words. They are fucking useless, empty, meaningless words.
Yep.
What you put behind them is, what are you going to do to make it right?
Right. That's been a value that's just unquestionable. I've always had that. That makes sense that was established when I was young.
And that's universal. I don't care how old or what your stuff is that we're talking about or I'm advising you from. That's a universal concept that I hold to be true. Like it is... I will tell anybody that will listen that, you know, that really matters to me. And another one is understanding that you are incredibly important, but you are a very small piece of something that is so much bigger than just you, versus the mindset that I think embodies Park City, which is you are the biggest fucking shit in something very small, brah. You are it.
Yep. Yep.
And that has also
completely different world perspectives.
Right. But that's been a very intentional value that I have talked about since you guys were weebles. Like back in Marlboro, I would say that, and I would say that to other people.
That's a tough one. That's a tough one because you can say that and demonstrate that all you want, but we're also growing up in 21st century America under like, you know, this sort of capitalism economy, you know, I don't know how to say that intelligently, but like we're encouraged in every aspect of our life to excel individually for our own interests.
You're right.
In all respects, athletically, economically, with like all tangible things, with all fame, with all of our relationships, which are meant to be kind of transactional in our work life. And so it's like, wow, in that case, I'm not a mini thing in a big system. Well, I mean, in some sense I am, but it's like, it's not in the good way where it's like community and a greater sense of purpose. It's like in the sense of like, oh my God, I'm a cog in the 300 million people fighting for minimum wage.
Their spot. But here's where I would challenge that, and maybe this is a separate value, which again, I would say probably fairly universally. Do you feel like I raised you to believe like sisters and brothers before all others, right?
Yes.
Like that your family and especially your siblings should always take precedent over your friends, like anybody else, because they're your ride or dies. Has that been instilled?
Yes.
And I think where those bleed together is I have tried with all intents and purposes to communicate you're small but important, but there's other states outside of Utah. There's other countries outside the U.S. There are people like...
There's other worlds outside of the planet.
Right? Even that. I took you to see Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, I wanted you guys to know what was possible. But I do think... So that's that. And like you've internalized it, but I think you make a really good point. It's also in conflict with our culture that centers always the individual. But you have had this orientation around your siblings where you have not always had every need accommodated because you're one of 4 in this realm. And in our Fab 5, you're one of 5. And fucking everybody has an equal share at the table.
Right.
So I would argue that you have really had that instilled in you because of that. But that's more of a logistical thing because you happen to have 3 sibs, so that really reinforced it.
Yep.
But I think that always is rooted, like you are not the only one. And I've never...
In this meaningful institution that is our family.
Right.
Which you gave a name, you gave an identity, you gave a purpose, we set intention. Like the institution of my family, that has been enough to allow me to dig into spirituality and be like, okay, there's something greater than me, especially because of the lack of religion also. We haven't even mentioned that, but that's a huge one.
Yep.
So I think that's huge. I mean, that's like the last frontier of fighting, the world right now. So I think it's a beautiful thing. I'm so excited to see what that is going to be like in Africa.
Oh, I thought you meant, I thought you were going to say in the future that you're so, and I was like,
well, also that.
Me too, to see who you guys partner up with.
Yeah.
If you have children.
Also, it's like, I just think of it like
are they biological? Are they adopted? Are they stepchildren? Like, what is and then when we come together for celebrations, what does that look like? Who are all the players and how many people?
And how big does it get?
What the fuck? And then there's dogs. It's
imagine 40 people here that are all connected to you.
How do you not just holy shit,
that's wrong, which doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
It's what is. I love how it's turned out. I loved growing up in Utah.
Yeah. Oh, that makes me happy to hear.
I hated it in a much more real sense. I mean, it was a pretty rough experience.
Right.
But I love it in retrospect.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's good.
It certainly would have helped.
That's what resiliency looks like too, which is, know, so it would have helped what?
To just have a stronger, I feel like just those 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th grade were just so goddamn difficult.
I know.
I mean, I look back and it's maybe 1 to 2 hours of every day was good at best on a good day. And then it was just so much rough. I don't even remember. I just locked down emotionally because I couldn't open anything, or it was just so painful.
How could I have supported you better then?
I don't know, man. It's just school. It was just fucking those schools and those people and those classes and those lunch tables and my athletics was that was maybe that was the hours that I loved. Basketball. Then running, I found running and that changed everything. Because that gave me a reliable one. Yeah. Because even basketball wasn't all that reliable.
That was drama in and of itself.
But I just loved the sport itself.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just maybe having cool cousins or having family, a stronger family. Because I was also in the heart of the divorce and we're going to dad's and that was just the perfect storm of everything.
More places where you felt like you could be yourself and it was positive and you just, so that when you go into those shittier spaces, you have those other things that are true and real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is that a question?
Yeah,
Or you
like
just-
I'm just thinking of what you said, like having more family, and I'm like, really, I think it could have been family, but just
or
any
just
spaces
people,
where
yeah,
you were
right.
like,
Pa-
I'm
family's
just
I feel like it's your typical
people
outlet
like
that would
me,
have
they
been there.
want me, they like just the way you can
Right.
internalize it at that young age.
Right. Just like close
Yeah.
friends too.
I
mean, just
know.
anything, any sort of.
It sucks because my experience was so similar to yours growing up and going to school. I fucking hated it, and so I hated myself because of it, right? I hated that I couldn't fit in and didn't
Yeah.
have friends that,
Yeah.
like, and yet I would have given anything for you guys not to have that. And, I'm thinking I'm doing all the things to help prevent that. And yet it still wasn't, and it's not like it still wasn't enough. I don't mean it like, oh, poor me. Like, I still couldn't spare you from that,
yeah.
and that's
That's yeah.
it like fucking crushes
Such is
my
life.
soul as a mom because that's what
Yeah.
you want to do and you can't,
That's a tough one to just watch for
It's brutal.
years too.
It's
like
brutal.
the fact that it can extend, and then like things like suicide too that can like come. Like it's such a scary, dark
Yep.
path that can happen. But we made it.
We did.
We made it. So
We did.
through at least preteens. Now we're entering the 20s of all of our
Right.
lives. So that's
and
a
the
fun.
beauty is in 5 years your frontal cortex is going to be fully developed.
I know. I think about the fact that my brain is still developing, and I'm like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'm here, and I still get more time. I get like bonus time to just keep developing.
Yeah, it's true.
Like,
I
it's
feel
so
the fuck
exciting.
yeah too. But it is. It is a kind of a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Okay, this is kind of a slightly related, but it's a kind of a conversation shift a bit. But so I was talking about how running, that 1 to 2 hours were good or whatever, just that kind of broad concept.
Yeah.
Then I found running, and it was like, okay, I like Reese McGrath, I like Shane Hilton, I like running with these guys. Like that was like the first time that I consistently had like, okay, there's an hour a day I enjoy every day. Okay, I can work off that.
Yeah.
I'm in a good mood after this 1 hour. What if I get lunch with these people and make it 2 hours?
Yeah.
And then I have 2 hours a good day. And that's like, you can start building because you finally have some ground to stand on almost mentally. What I've been doing these past few years is kind of learning, getting that, losing it, getting it, losing it. Like, and that's life to some
Sure.
extent,
Yep.
is building that. Because it's also like, I see a 50-year-old and I'm like, wow, they really don't have their shit together, which I used to judge. And now I'm like, what the fuck am I talking about? They're 50, like, they have it harder than me. I'm young, I'm in college, they're working a job. Like,
Right.
why am I judging this person for not, like, just because they're older does not mean that they're going to have shit together. Like, it's going to get harder sometimes as I
Absolutely.
age. And I got to stop.
And there's so much less tolerance from our society in general.
Yeah.
The older you get and the less you appear to have your shit together, right?
Right.
People are less willing to help you. They're less willing
Yeah.
to support you, consider you, acknowledge you. Like,
Yeah.
So I think that's true. That's a great perspective and good for you for being like, who am I to fucking
Right.
judge? I don't even know
It gives
this
me so much
person's
more respect for
story.
adults. Like,
Yeah.
and I was saying last night, I don't have any of that. Like, I finally
Yeah.
can respect adults, but I don't have any in my
Oh,
life
God.
to like really. But I'm excited,
Yeah.
through job or whatever, to like meet people and just connect
Yeah.
to.
Well,
all
even
different
when you come home for
demographics.
Thanksgiving, we're doing this dinner at
Yeah.
the Crosslands.
I'm excited to see Ian.
Right?
I love Ian Crossland.
And Ian and Bert, really interesting guy to talk
Yeah.
to, and
Yeah.
and so like there's great people to practice with. Anyway,
Human. That's a peculiar word choice there.
What?
No, I just said something
Oh,
random.
okay.
Yeah, that's cool.
adults. There's also more adults.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've obviously been alive a long time, and so you've been through this process of like being like, oh, I like this. I want to do this with my time. I want to do this with my time. Like, I'm discovering what I want to do with my life, which is obviously like, what do you want to study? Well, I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
Oh wait, maybe I want to
Yeah.
do kin. Maybe I want to run every day. Maybe I want to work at Applebee's. Maybe I want to go to this bar at 9 p.m. because it's consistently fun, at least for this next 6 months, and then I'm going to change and I'm going to want something else. But
Yeah.
like, how have you, I mean, you've been doing this game of manipulating your schedule to fit your needs for so long. And do you feel like you are in more control now than you were in your 20s and like creating and manipulating a life that makes you feel fulfilled and at peace and content? Like, have you found things, tangible things, like tangible daily habits that bring you joy consistently, and then have those like disappeared because you've changed? Or like, is there anything that for the past 40 years you've been doing because it just is still helping you? Because I'm like, fuck, okay, I have 2 more years of college. I know I want to run every day. Okay, I'm going to do that, but I have to get a job. Like, what if that's really fucking sucks and I go into this really dark place because I'm working all the time and I'm not seeing friends anymore? Well, I still have running, and what if I like get into frisbee golf and that's a fun 2 hours? But then, like, it's just, there's so many options. There's so many, and it's so interesting because I think about my life as this vague thing of, oh, what do I want to do? What do I want to work here? But rarely do I break it down to daily tangible things. Like, do I want to massage some dude's thigh from 3:45 to 4:45 and then do it some girl's back and then go get dinner at Applebee's? Like, what do I want to do with my time that I actually want to do with my time?
Oh, okay. So there were so many questions in there.
Yeah, that was long. Every time you just stayed silent, I was like, okay, I'll just keep giving context.
You just reframed it like 5 fucking times. And then you come in with your closer. Do I want to fucking massage some dude's thigh at 3:45 and then some chick's back at 5:30 and then go to Applebee's for dinner? Like, there's nothing I can deliver that even fucking comes close to what you just laid down. Wow.
Oh, that's
I don't even know how to wind up to start. 'Cause that's just like the mic drop.
Oh, man.
Wow. Okay.
Skadoosh.
So, I am definitely, I think the biggest change that I think encompasses all of the context of that question. When I was younger and I wanted to do things, but I couldn't get out of my own way to do them because I would either didn't think I deserved to, or I didn't think I knew how, or I thought I might make a fool of myself, like whatever it might be. I always could tell myself the story of, well, I'll do it later. Like I'll do it when I get older, or I'll do it when I'm not pregnant, or I'll do it whatever. But there was, you could always kick the can down the road.
Yep. When
you hit 50, it's like, okay, well, you know what? The fucking road is I think that's a detour sign. There are definitely stop signs. Like your road is getting a lot shorter. So for me, I think I'm a lot more aware of, okay, well, there's not a lot of road left. So you're either fucking doing this or you're not, Kellogg. Like, what's your deal? And then trying to really suss out what is the issue here? Why does this keep going on a list? You know, me and my list. Like, why is it not done? Why does it just keep getting added?
Yep.
And that's probably the biggest change in that, because I've never been good at centering my own nurturing and care, right? I always will redirect that out, but I can also be very selfish. And so you would think if you can be selfish, you can practice self-care, but they don't always go hand in hand, right? I can want time for myself and I want people to respect me, but then do I use the time for myself in a way that feeds my soul? Probably not. But I've demanded it and I fought for it and I deserve it, you know? So like sort of reconciling that, because I've always felt like I'm selfish, But I also realize I am so willing to sacrifice my own needs, whatever they may be. And I've talked about this with all of you recently. It's interesting, and Chris is going to get it when I get to Fort Collins. But Bean and I talked about it. Livy and I talked about it 2 weeks ago.
Chris is going to get it.
But I do. You need me if I'm in the middle of something and I'm like, I've got to finish this for Dennis or for myself or for a client, or just because I've set out to do it 5 times and I sabotage or I stop at any given moment every time and I go, I'm going to do it. And then you call me twice in a row. I go, something's up. Will needs me, right? Yeah. And that's just metaphorical. I'll do that for friends. I'll do that for neighbors. I'll do, and
okay. So that's, I was going to say first of all, that's the definition of selfless, putting others' needs before your own. And I was going to say, okay, so you're a selfless parent, but you're saying you do it for relationships too.
Yeah.
So, you say you're selfish. Do you say that just to like kind of swipe it off and be like, oh, I understand that I have flaws? Or do you like actually mean that you believe in some respect that you're selfish? And if you do believe that, you're communicating the exact opposite. So I'd be curious as to why you say you believe that. Also, I'm going to check if this is still recording real quick.
Okay.
It is.
Okay.
We're at 70 minutes.
70?
70. Yeah, these things go long.
Holy shit.
Julie and I talk for 2.5 hours. I'm also going to pee, but you can still answer the question.
Do you want to be maybe off camera for that?
No, it's cool. I'm not going to face the camera.
Love it. Okay, so what I would say to that is selfish. Okay, we'll go back to selfish. So the self-care thing, I'm always willing to sort of like meet the needs of others or respond to my people when they need me, because 2 reasons. One is it affirms me, right? It makes me feel valued. It makes me feel needed. It makes me feel relevant to be able to be there and be listened to and appreciated or respected or acknowledged or thanked for what I contributed that maybe helped somebody. So that is like, call it selfish or not, but that's definitely a huge incentive for me to show up for my people, right? The second thing, though, is it affirms my ability to deflect. And like, if I am always helping you, I don't have to be doing anything. I don't have to be dealing with my stuff. So it's like, it's a great distraction technique, right? Deflection technique is a better word.
Yeah.
I can just not deal because I'm focused on you. I'm focused on Olivia. Then she calls while we're on with Chris.
Right.
Like, I got to call her back.
You can fill your time with something that is of high value to you and avoid doing something else that is high value of you, but scarier.
Yeah, 100%. Or nurturing, right? Or like, I'll nurture you.
Right.
And because if I nurture me, isn't that selfish? If you need me and I prioritize me, that's selfish. So some of it is like maybe a perception of selfish that isn't necessarily accurate. And some of it is, I think for me, where I feel selfish is that conditioning, like it's okay to want to not be around everybody, or to not want you guys to come home and fucking mess up all my shit, that feels shitty and selfish. But now I'm like trying to hold space for myself, and because we have the tools of the blueprints in a lot of ways, it's helpful to be like, I acknowledge I'm in my sensual shadow, so humor me and fucking put your shoes in the closet instead of just kicking them off in the foyer, right? Little things like that.
Requesting your boundaries be met.
I just don't want to ever seem like I am not caring for and showing up for my people. And so sometimes the noise in my head is, if I'm taking time out to do for me purely, that's selfish. And I don't think of this in a martyry way, so I don't want it received in a martyry way, like, that's selfish. Like, and I'm really like, it isn't though, right? Like, that's not what I'm saying. I am trying to sort of reconcile that definition myself right now, because it's really all about me a lot of the time, because it's just me at home. So I'm like, look at me go. And that doesn't feel selfish. I'm like, it's my turn. I fucking earned this. But I do joke. I will say this. I feel like I retired from a fucking big Fortune 500 company after 23 years, and like nobody fucking threw me a party. I didn't get a plaque or a going away gift. It was just like,
that's a great point.
Thanks for your service.
Why is that not like the as upon the last child leaving the house, there's a huge party. Why is that
I
not
don't
like
know.
culturally
But
relevant?
I think that was a
like,
lot of what was behind my text
thing.
to you guys that Julia left that day, that weekend. I was homesick with shingles and sent that text to you guys. Like, where is my fucking send off? Like, I want something in recognition for my 23 years of service.
Ooh.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what it really was.
It's a long time.
It is.
And it's a lot.
So,
well, maybe we can make that happen.
well, I think
Maybe
there's been intentional effort since then to make it happen. The effort comes from some of you four more than others, comes consistently from some of you more than others, but
Right.
and comes not at all from some of you more than others. But I'm not going to not keep asking for it, is what I realized. And because after I go, there will be other people in your life, and already are other people in your life, who also deserve that same recognition, acknowledgement, consideration, compassion, curiosity, as I want from you guys now after raising you for 23 years. There are people in your lives who deserve that, and there will be people moving forward. So if that's a lesson I can teach you through the growing pains of our family dynamic, you bet your ass, because I want that to be part of your legacy, is people remember you for fucking being there for them, for showing up for them even when it was inconvenient for you, and not just when you felt inclined to check in, but because you fucking love them and you're like, they matter to me, and I want to make sure they know it every day, every single day. Even if I'm just thinking it and feeling it, like they fucking matter, and I want to make sure they always feel seen and heard. And that there's gratitude around the contribution they make in your life, whether it's me or anyone else.
Of course. I think that's just
that's
just what every healthy relationship should be.
Agreed.
In theory. So
I'm
think it's
basically
great.
the guinea pig. So y'all can get after it anytime now.
The guinea pig where money complicates everything. Because money makes it so much harder. Like I was going to say, I feel really, you're saying you sometimes feel selfish doing these things just for yourself. Like, you know, ignoring a call and staying home and watching a movie for you.
Right.
And that has a tint of selfishness, which you're realizing it shouldn't. Okay, well, what about when I'm sitting and watching a movie? I'm $300 in debt to you, and you're working during the day, and I'm sitting watching a movie, relaxing, when I could be working. Like, that has more merit into its selfishness, which I recognize. I see that, and I think I'm selfish, and I think it's hard because it's like this selfishness, and of course I don't want to live a really full life where I'm working and then running and then studying and then repeating. Like, I don't want to lose the social part of my life because it's so much fun. I mean, I'm having so much fun and I'm growing so much from it. So it's like, and that also is on top of, like, it's been hard to get a job. I mean, it's not from a lack of trying.
Yeah.
And even with a job, it's not from like a lack of discipline. Like, I'm fucking busy. And as I like become more serious with running, and as my course load becomes like more program specific and like not Psych 101, French 101.
Yeah.
It's not 101. It's like, I need to fucking read and I need to study for hours every night. Like, that's going to be difficult. And so that's a whole nother thing. Mm-hmm. And so it's like a complex issue, but I do recognize the selfishness in that behavior. And so that can like complicate things because you're my mom and you're sacrificing, and you've already sacrificed so much. You've got me $40K in my savings plan, which is why I'm here.
Right.
But that's just hard because I'm unsustainably taking from you, and mm-hmm. You're like, okay, please, I'm drowning, stop taking from me. And I'm like, ugh. Can you give me like a little bit longer because I'm just not ready. But it's also like, I'm not ready because I don't want to be ready. Like, if I need to be ready, I can be ready.
Yeah, fucking A.
It's
You're
just
always
tough.
Calling out the truth. You've been doing that to me your whole life. And then I feel like an asshole if I say, I'm done. I'm cutting you off, because what will happen? Because then I'm going to fucking get a call. I know it, and you know it. Like, what went down, but amplified. I know that because your default in the past
theft.
has been,
I see
I'll
what you're
go
saying.
steal instead of, I'll go get the
Right.
job.
Right.
And I'm like having no part of that.
But
then,
to some extent, the stealing thing can't. I mean, I can't sustainably steal if you cut me off. Like I would have to get a job or something because you can't steal your way through a living.
And Olivia said that to me, you know, when I basically was like, I'm done. I'm fucking done with this. And I mean it. I'm done. I'm done, but I'm not really done.
Yeah.
And she's like, and it is the best thing for me, and I'm actually glad. Right? And I was like, God damn it. I could have done this maybe before, maybe not. And for you, maybe before, maybe not. But I like hearing that because I get a lot of noise in my head about what happens if I do that. And I'm sure that's rooted in, will they still love me? Will they still come around? Like, what if I put this hammer down and I set this boundary? Will I lose them? Like what? And am I willing to risk that? And of course I'm not. But then that doesn't serve you. It doesn't teach you. You and Chris both this summer. I mean, he's never really worked. And he doesn't want to or seem to have any intention of doing so.
How you doing, buddy? Oh, no way. Oh my God.
Oh my God. Woo.
No worries. No worries. This is perfectly okay.
This is perfectly okay. In my chair.
What's up, dog?
Oh, that would have been. Man. That would have been some. Like if I literally started
fell over.
To go.
That would have been funny.
Like,
that would have been really funny. What an adorable
God.
duo. Oh man. God.
Damn.
Those are some amazing spirits. I think what you're saying is we had, I'm sure you remember, we had that huge fight at the beginning of my visit. I forget you're very fragile. Like it's
That's
like
I'm gonna have a purple bruise, a little like paw love.
It's
okay.
It's a cool battle scar.
Right.
We had that huge fight where you were like, I just feel so, you're taking, and I was fighting, and we were like outside and shouting on the front porch.
Yeah.
And then I broke down to tears because you said something, and you're like, I only feel valued when you need me. And I was like that, like, it like hit me like a train hearing that. But then I stopped and paused and was like, brought to tears, and I was like, I hope that that's not what you think. I hope that that's not what you really feel, that if you were to stop giving me money, that I would stop wanting to have a relationship with you, because the fact that you give me money has nothing to do with the sense of respect and love and care that I have for you. That is so beyond money, and that is so blood and psychedelic and deep and human, and like it's all those things that are so beyond money. And so I hope that you never really ponder if that's what would happen, because that's not, at least with me. And I can honestly guarantee you that with Chris, Julia, and Olivia, and you know this deep down too, that wouldn't be the case. And it's also like we kind of saw, I almost felt like, this is separate, this is just addressing the part before that, it felt like Olivia, it like almost got ugly with Olivia with the money. Like it felt like things were getting close, like you said. I mean, it almost got ugly, but it kind of ended up not, or at least I didn't see it.
No,
I didn't see those
really
ugly
didn't.
conversations.
We were able to dodge it. And the thing is, Olivia has never pushed back about paying me back, which I respect the hell out of. Mm-hmm. And that has gone a long way to my accommodating the pace of the payback.
Yeah.
You know,
that's
but good. So I definitely think, I appreciate you saying that. And I think I do know in my heart of hearts, but it's always like the gamble. Because I do think I have had trauma around that. Like in 6th grade, when 3 classes of 6th graders, literally I came into school one day and they all weren't speaking to me, right? Because of that, like, that's traumatic. And then having that happen in college again, like people on my floor all stopped speaking to me. That's traumatic.
Man.
And then kind of going through some of the friendship things that I've had in Park City, you know, and friends that just like are not my friends anymore, and probably being the most profound. Like, this has been a great 10 years, but I would rather not have you in my life, right? So that is like, that lives in me, even if I don't have it in a conscious place all the time. Yeah. And so like, you guys are my ride or dies, and it's now been narrowed down to such a small group of humans that I trust and feel safe with, that I'm like, I can't risk this. But I also don't want to create dependent, lazy,
those relationships will never blow up. I mean, you can't, and maybe that's part of family. Maybe that's just what family is. But it really makes me sad. That makes me so sad, because I feel like you have such a lack of closure in so many aspects of your life.
Yeah.
And that's my relationship with was based on the same conflict. And it's like interesting as we both deal with that kind of adjacently, because as of recently, I really want to get some resolve on that. I really want to get closure and hang out with him again.
Yeah.
Not talk to him, not tell him. I want to talk to him, and I want to talk about it, and I want to talk through it, and I want to get closure on it.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I think that's like, I don't know what your intention with Missy has been, but I feel like that's an important thing.
Yeah. And I hope it is grown enough that you'd be able to do that, because I don't think he was there when you would have been able to get there. But I think if I phrase it well enough, pretty much anybody could get there with me if I lead them through it, because I also can empathize with his side now. Yeah.
So I can speak to him and make him understand that I understand him.
Right.
And then kind of portray my perspective.
Sure.
And I know I can communicate
you also did that.
well.
I won't let you rewrite, because I saw a text that got sent. I never saw your letter.
I did that, but I did that in a very, I look back now and I'm like, wow, I handled that situation awful.
Okay.
Every text, every conversation, I would do so much differently.
Well, that is there's learning, right? Mm-hmm. But I know, because I did read some of them where you went in and you did own some of your shit. You did. Some of it. I didn't own all of it. He owned none. He said, I have nothing to apologize for. And I'm not like defending you.
But even then, I don't need him to. I don't need him to anymore. I can still understand his perspective. There's a cool song quote. It's forgive them even if they are not sorry.
And so it's not about the sorry. It's the accountability, because it's only in accountability that we can learn and grow, which means that's the only way to have any shift in a relationship. And otherwise, you just rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. And so I think for me, that is where it's so critical that you hold the people you love accountable for their stuff. Because when you don't, you absorb it, whether you believe you're doing it or not. If somebody else isn't going to own it, you just sort of internalize it yourself. Whether you agree that it should be yours to own or not, you do internalize it, because they give you no outlet to air it out. So you absorb it and swallow it and try to carry on and act like it's not there. And it's there. It's always there. And it usually is a pattern of behavior where people are not willing to say, this is how I could have done this differently or better.
It's true. What you say is true.
But
you can, I've found, like I'm thinking specifically now about and how that relationship went down. I was hurt. I thought she wronged me. I've thought about it. I've thought about the ways I communicated.
Okay.
I talked to her about it, and I told her what I was sorry for, and she told me, honestly, I don't think she really apologized.
You said she didn't.
Might have vaguely in some respect, but she certainly didn't apologize for the crux of it. She didn't apologize for like abandoning me as a friend, which is the problem.
Right.
But that's okay. Like that, she can fill a different role in my life now. And even if she literally felt no empathy, I can still find space specifically with this relationship. And I'm not saying that every relationship should be like this, because that's just naive. But I was still able to find closure, and I'm still able to enjoy her presence now.
Because you've shifted your expectation of what the friendship can be.
Right. But I also, I forgave her, and I just...
That's awesome.
I was able to like dish off. I don't know.
But I don't know. Two questions. Okay. And they're not about trying to prove my rightness, but I think what you raise a good point, that you can still have meaningful connection with people, but do you trust her?
It depends on the definition of trust. I mean, I wouldn't say...
Do you trust me?
I wouldn't. It's also like, it's not a lack of trust. Like the reason I understand she needed space. Like she felt trapped and she felt like I was dramatic and grabbing that relationship. Like she's allowed to leave. So like.
Of course she is. But the question is, do you trust her? Do you trust her? And the second question is, is she a safe space for you? Those would be my questions to you.
I trust her. I do trust her.
Okay.
And she is a safe space sometimes.
Okay.
So then
answer.
Again, maybe I don't fully trust her because like say last night, I saw her last night.
Yeah.
Her and were weird. they're always weird when other guys are around for some reason.
Okay.
Like, okay, but that's on them. Like,
course it
okay,
is.
you can't be yourself around me, whatever. I'm just going to interact with someone else.
Right. But that again, I would say like the people, safety is about being able to show up as yourself in a space with people who you know essentially
Right.
have your back no matter what. Those are our safest spaces in our lives. Can we agree on that?
Yeah.
And she's not one of them. And that's okay.
No.
You can go to her for other things, a good
Right.
time, low key, funny conversations, sassy banter.
Right.
You don't have to have that.
Right.
So, and I think it's important to start to recognize that in your life. Stop trying to make her like an intimate, meaningful confidant in your life. She is not trustworthy because you don't feel you can show up as yourself. And when I asked you initially, it was, do you trust her? Meaning, do you trust that next time she will come to you and say, I can't breathe, or I want to leave, or will she just dip again? That's
Right.
part of the trust too, you
Right.
know?
But
and that's just,
a way to look at that would be like, the reason she can't be trusted is because I made her that when she never wanted to be that. And so she wasn't, can I be mad at her for being that like and not like, she's not going to like share all my secrets and that type of trust, but like,
yep,
she never wanted to fill that role. And so I put her in that role and
Sure.
I got mad at her because she didn't fill it.
valid.
But I can't be mad at her for putting her in that role.
No, that's true.
And so it's like, okay, we have a different relationship now, but I don't resent you at all because
Right.
I put you somewhere you didn't want to be and you jumped out,
Yeah,
which is fine. Maybe you sucked at communicating. You're 20 years old. It's fine. I
right.
forgive you. Boom.
That's emotional maturity. And I think that's valid. I think that is valid. We do that to people. We ascribe stuff or project stuff on them that they don't consent to or never ask for. And then we have feels around the way that they behave as a result. So
Yep.
I think that's absolutely valid.
Which is wild because, again, it just comes down to a lack of communication. You just talked your way through everything
Right.
and had every conversation. And then as you changed, you talked about it. Like,
Right. And that's, most people are not
I mean,
capable
but
of
that,
that.
to be fair, that's almost ridiculous to some extent. You can't have that level of communication with everyone in your life or you're just like,
We do. In our family. I mean, we're always talking about it.
that's
Right?
true.
We're always, I mean, part of the Fab Five check-in is like what's going on,
Right.
but then what comes
Right.
from that, and then how do we all respond to that? And if that
Right.
feels good and supported, great. And if it doesn't,
Right.
you're going to damn well hear about it.
Right.
Like, I didn't feel like you know, so.
But that's like, we are the most important relationships in each other's lives. So we
Fair.
put in effort, we put in work, it takes time.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
it's a lot of those things are
That's true.
taxing in a lot of ways, obviously, as you've communicated.
Here, switch to nut from, yeah.
Citrus.
How do you feel about wrapping this up for the moment?
Not taking the rain.
I love it. It's
Bellingham
cold and
weather.
wet, and I'm starving, but
Yeah, I'm down to wrap this up.
I mean, I do love it. I think this is great, and it is a little cold and wet, and I am a little starving. And
Wasn't this a wonderful idea? Isn't this podcasting a beautiful way to have amazing conversations?
it's amazing. You're amazing.
Thank you.
I love that you're asking
Affirmation.
the questions.
Acquired. Thank you everybody for watching, whoever's watching. I don't think this part of this will ever be posted anywhere, but if it is, and if I'm ever watching this like 50 years from now, you want to say like one last thing to like Will who's watching this on his 50th birthday.
Oh my God. You're going to fucking just unravel me. What would I even say?
Like I just
Fucking hurry up and
I
come
just
see
wake up.
me.
I wake up on my 50th birthday and you are no longer alive. And I start playing this video.
On your 50th birthday, I will be 83 years old. Either 83 years alive or 83 years old and dead, but I'll be 83 years old.
Yes.
Wow.
Ooh.
I would want you to have heard it all before your 50th birthday. Because I think it would really be like, that I hope you lived a life or are living a life that you feel proud of, that you're showing up as the man you want to be at the end of the day when you put your head on the pillow, that the choices you made were aligned with who you are as a human being and the values you hold, and that you make the people around you always that you care about, and even the ones you don't know, feel seen and heard, and as if their presence on this earth matters. Because I've always maintained, I think that's all any of us want. And I hope you're the best, most attentive, supportive, compassionate brother that you could ever be to your sibs, and that they are to you. And I hope your life is filled with love and support and affirmations of the amazing human that you are, that you surround yourself with people who always will love you the way you deserve to be loved. And that you carry in your heart the knowledge that you are always one of the four corners of my heart. And you are always my favorite.
Oh. I love you so much.
I always love you more. Okay.
Thank you for watching the Will Henry Field podcast. Episode Amy Kellogg.
Episode Amy Kellogg.
I love you very much, Mother.
And I love you back. Mwah.